Gotowi?
Dzień dobry Państwu. Witam bardzo serdecznie na spotkaniu ze Stephenem Desbergiem, belgijskim scenarzystą komiksowym, który przyjechał do nas z Brukseli. Spotkanie będzie się odbywać w języku angielskim, więc mam nadzieję, że Państwo nadążą za nami i że przepraszam za brak tłumacza, ale niestety nie było możliwe tego zorganizowania na czas. Więc przejdę na angielski. Hello Stephen.
Hello.
It's really good to see you here in Krakow. I'm very glad you are with us at the book fair and at the comic salon, this small section, comic section that we are running. And well, we're just gonna probably start with your impressions from Poland and Krakow especially. So if you could say a few words about how you like it this far.
Well, it's my second time in Poland. I was in Łódź at the comic convention 4 or 5 years ago, and it's my first time in Krakow. And so far, well, we've been yesterday to Auschwitz, and today I discovered the castle and the old city, and it's very different from Łódź, of course. It's possible to see really what was the past here, so I'm very impressed. Lots of beautiful houses, and I'm looking forward to see more today and hopefully tomorrow morning.
So we've been together in Auschwitz yesterday, and we've been talking a lot about your work and the things that were published in Poland already, especially the Scorpion series that you made together with Enrico Marini, an Italian artist who drew it to your scenario, and also about Golden Dogs, the new series. I mean, it's not new, but it was recently published in Poland. So these two are known here, but there's like a lot of more. So could you tell us a little? Let's start with Marini and Scorpion. That's probably the biggest title we have in Poland with your name on the cover. So if you could tell us a few words, how was it, how did you come across Marini, and how many books did you do together, and what is this story about, just for everyone to know?
Okay, Marini is indeed Italian, but he lives in Switzerland, in a small town near Basel, and we met quite a long time ago, I think it's 22 or 23 years ago, at a festival in a small town called Sierre in the Alps, and we talked for at least 2 years of doing a project together, and I had ideas that I already wrote, and I realized with the time that he wanted me to write something for him. So we discussed to see what would be the subjects we would like to develop together. And the first one we did was 2 books called The Desert Star, which is set in America, in the West. Maybe we can find a cover of that. And after that he told me that he really loved, when he was a kid, he loved to see movies with swashbuckling movies with lots of action and set in the 18th century. And that was a Scorpion. Yes, this is a Polish edition of Desert Star. And then there was a gap, again 2 years between Desert Star and Scorpion. But Scorpion is a long series, as we started that about 20 years ago. There are 11 books published in French, 12 is coming now, and hopefully will continue. Scorpion, the subject, is a person who is not religious. He wants to go by his free will at a time where it's very difficult. And so he looks for artifacts about religion, and he sells them, and that's just the beginning of a long adventure. So hopefully you'll read it and you'll tell me what you think about it. But written lots of other things. I started my career writing for kids, and I had a character called Billy the Cat. He's this small boy, about 10 years old. He has an accident with a car. He dies, goes to heaven, but there has been a mistake somewhere. So he has a possibility to come back, but in a cat. So he discovers the world through the eyes of the cat, and makes friends with animals and all that. And that has been with Dupree, a series that was very successful, and it has been animated. Probably not in Poland, but France, Belgium, Germany, England. It was some time ago, it was more than 20 years ago. And I wrote several books for kids, and then I realized that the things I really liked was archaeology, was religion, travels, and that was more adult stuff. So I started to work with artists like Marini on more serious subjects. One of my series is called IRS. IRS is the financial, how would you call it, division, yes, in America. And they make inquiries about, you know, all the financial crimes in all the world. So it's very political, but it talks about money, finance, yes, all the crimes that you can imagine.
Well, this one is not published in Poland yet. As far as we know, Scorpion and the Desert Star, that was what Egmont published in early 2000s. By the way, there was 11 issues of the Scorpion published in Poland, so they are all for the moment. And we will talk about the next issues that you are planning and writing later. Yeah. But let's switch to Golden Dogs for a moment, because that's the most recent one that was published here, and probably the only one that can be bought currently at the book fair. So if you could tell a little about what is this one about, and in the meantime we will try to convince publishers to publish IRS in Poland. But for the moment, let's stick to Golden Dogs.
Yes, Golden Dogs, the idea at the beginning, the artist, Griffo, loves London and what London was in the 19th century. So basically he was asking me, would you like to write a story on these atmospheres? And I've been, since I was a kid, a very big fan of a rock band called Led Zeppelin. I don't know if you know them. They were very famous. I think they probably sold more albums than the Beatles, so really they were very famous at the time. And I thought about, you know, having a sort of the band, 4 different characters with personalities very strong, and they would form a band, not to make music, but to be gangsters. To make money at London at the time. So I really tried to transpose the characters of the musicians into a sort of band with rock stars, but not to make music. That was the basic idea. And of course they go along, and then they have problems with they don't get along anymore. So just like in a rock band. So you're writing scenarios for various different artists like Marini and Griffo, and for many others. So what's the difference between working with Marini and Griffo? Is there any significant difference in writing for a particular artist? And then we're going to switch to your new cooperations with younger artists all over the world. Well, yes, you know, every collaboration is like a marriage. So we have to discuss quite a long time to see if we can develop something together. What I want to tell, the story I want to tell, does the artist want to tell the same one? Also the personalities of the characters, there's a bit of me. There has to be a bit of the artist somewhere. So sometimes there are artists I really like. I would love to work with them, and then we find that we really want to tell different stories. So sometimes we still try to work together, and after a book or two we realize that it's not really working. So there are very big difference, of course, between artists. Someone like Marini wants to be involved in the storytelling. So I write a story, but before that I go to visit him in Switzerland, or he comes to Brussels, and it's good. Those are good moments. We, you know, we have a walk through the forest in Switzerland, and we talk about our characters, what they're going to become, and after that, I integrate some of his ideas in my storytelling. But there are other artists like Grifo or the one before that draws IRS. They're less interested in the story. They are, but they respect completely what I want to write. So basically we talk about the settings. Like I said, Grifo wanted to draw London. So of course I respected that. When I work for IRS, it's sort of a James Bond, if you want. So we would have scenes in America, but we would go to Thailand, we would go to Switzerland again, because there are, you know, big banks in Switzerland, and I have to check with the artist if he's fond of those settings, if he can find pictures and all that. I remember we had a scene in Saudi Arabia, and it's very, very difficult to find interesting pictures of Riyadh and these places. So we try to avoid. We discuss more details than the big pictures. It depends. So that's part of the interest to be a writer in comic books, is that we are basically two persons. The storyteller and the artist. The publisher is involved, but very often not that much. So we really discuss, the both of us. We have to like each other in a way, because it's a work for many years when you start a series. So, but only two. When I did work for television from time to time, there you had 20 persons, and then you work for 6 months, and after that you have other people coming in. So comic books is a really nice business for that. It's a small team.
Well, I'm also interested in the technical aspect, a workshop aspect of your work. How much detailed are the descriptions for each artist? I mean, I know from my own experience, some of them prefer to have it more detailed, and some of them would prefer to have it more, you know, rough. Just what will happen on the panel, or just what will happen on a single page. So it's like always a little different. And what are your experiences with that?
Well, it is my responsibility to view the whole story. So most of our books in Belgium or France are 46 pages. Can be more, can be 54 or even 62, but most of the time it's 46. So it's my responsibility to be sure that the story fits in 46 pages. If I don't watch that, if I just write and then give that to the artist, we cannot be sure the story will fit in 46 pages, but that the rhythm will be what it has to be. So I have to visualize the different scenes, each page and each panel. So we have one here. I will say to the artist, this is page, I don't know, let's say it's page 1. We will have 6 or 7 or 8 panels. I will describe each one, and of course give the dialogue. Doesn't mean that the artist absolutely has to do the same. If he really understands what I mean, he can decide, like he did here, so we have a wide view on the first panel and a close-up on the second. He can visualize that differently. There's a logic, of course. I will tell him how I see things. I will say wide angle for panel 1, close-up for panel 2. If for some reason he wants to see it differently, I don't have a problem with that. What is really important for me are the expressions on the faces. So I have to give enough details so that the artist can understand what's in the mind of the character at that particular moment. So I would say, I'm not going to say in panel for the one, I'm not going to say, okay, there's a car before, then there's you know, many details on the way. He understands. It's indoor parking. He understands basically how it's going to be. So I give details really when there's a reason. Like if the main character, he has a car, I won't say the color unless there's a really important reason that he has a red car or a blue car. So most of the time it's not important, but it may be, so I will tell him. Otherwise he's free to visualize how he wants to see it. So really I write the 46 pages, I decide the number of panels there will be in each page, and that's the base for him. When he receives the storyboard, if you want, it's important that he understands why I told the story like that, inside each scene. So he has to read it. I give the 46 pages before he starts to work. It's his responsibility to read it several times, to make notes, ask questions of me if something is not clear. And then I have to check if he really understood what I meant. If it's the case, then okay, I will trust him. We work together we have been working for a few years, so there's some experience. I know how he's going to see things. So usually there are no problems when it's a good marriage, I would say. Sometimes it's not a good marriage, so maybe he didn't understand what I meant, or he just doesn't want to see it my way. So that happens, and well, at some point we stop.
What about the character design? I mean, you sometimes probably want each character to look in a specific way, so let's say you have a female character, so you say, let's make her look like Marilyn Monroe, or like more like Monica Bellucci, or like different. There are sometimes. So how does it work? Do you use actual actors or public figures to make them resemble public figures, or you just describe the features?
Yeah. There's a lot of back and forth. I will give some ideas. The artist will say, okay, that character, can you name an actress or an actor or two or three, just to have an idea what you have in your mind. And I would do that, and maybe he'll see it differently. He will make sketches, show that to me, and then I would say, yes, that is great, or maybe no, we still don't have her. Sometimes, you know, there are some funny things that happened in IRS. At some point, the artist decided to draw his wife as the main female interest. So it was a bit difficult for me to relate to that, because when I was writing the story, there was a love story between the main character and that girl. It was difficult for me to identify what's his wife, so you understand.
Are you doing similar tricks? I mean, involving your friends or family into the storyline and asking artists to make them resemble actual people?
Well, you know, yes, it happens, but I use some camouflage, so So yes, of course, my experiences they have to come in what I write in one way or another. But I'm not writing my life. So I think the closest I came is a series with the same artist as Golden Dog. The Golden Dogs. It's called Sherman, and it's not really my story, but it tells stories that are associated with my family. My father was American. He came for the war, and he met my mother just after the war in Paris. And those years, the 30s, are very. I've always had lots of interest for that period, and we showed Auschwitz in that series. So I did that twice in IRS and here in Sherman. So was very emotional for me to go to Auschwitz yesterday. But yes, I picked up little stories from my family in America and in Europe, and used them in a very different story.
So you've been active for many years as a scenario writer. Is it like 30 already, or?
Yeah, 35. I think.
35 years, and quite impressive. So how many books did you write already? I mean, roughly, I'm just asking if these are hundreds or...
I'm not counting anymore. I think probably around 150. Yeah. So it's yeah, it's about 5 books a year. It's probably too much.
You told me yesterday that you preferred to cooperate with the mature artists who are stable in terms of how they act, and they are predictable. When you agree to do one book every 2 years, that they usually do it. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, and the artists are changing in time as well, as you told me yesterday about Marini, who's also somehow tired with work. But what I'm going to is to ask you about some new cooperations, because you told me yesterday that recently you started to look on a different angle onto the younger artists, and you do have some very interesting cooperations with young artists in some exotic areas even. So tell us more about it.
Yes, it's not that I didn't want to work with young artists. I did it when the artist who does IRS started. He was just really starting. He was working in a video club. So no, the point is that been working with Marini, with Bernard Rankin, with Griffo for more than 20 years. And I just felt that there are many artists in that kind of drawings, and probably a little bit too much right now in France and Belgium. And I felt the need, of course, to continue IRS and Scorpions, but to try different things with really different artists. And I was in Morocco in June. There's a school in the north of Morocco, in Tétouan. It's the Institut des Beaux-Arts de Tétouan. And there was a girl there, 24 years old, and she's stunning. She's, I mean, a word. And that was new for me, because I went to Morocco 15 years ago, and they were all dreaming to come to Paris and Brussels. And it has changed a lot in Morocco, and now they want to stay there, but with internet. They want to work with America and other countries. So and it's interesting that she doesn't speak French. Or in Morocco, usually they speak French. And she really learned English through internet. And we talk in English, and I wrote the story for her in English. And you know, it's new, because I realized I went to, of course, I'm half American, so I go to America. I have a collaboration with a comic book artist, Dan Panosian. And I went to Vietnam also to work with artists over there. And same thing as Morocco. now turned towards America. Same thing in South America. We have more and more artists in countries like that that are working for the American market or the European market, but they don't want to move there. They want to stay in their countries. So it's really something new and very interesting. I also met a girl who is from Belarus, and she went to work in Lyon in France. There's a school there called Émile Cole, a very good school, and she has 5 or 6 cats, and the story I wanted to write is about cats, the bad side of cats. It's very nice because she has her drawings are very sweet, but my story isn't. So the combination of the two is really nice. I hope we're gonna see publishers very soon with that, and yes, it's nice to to go international. We have different approaches, and I really feel that the market in France, Belgium, in French-speaking countries, is being stereotyped a lot. I don't know if what is the input you have here in Poland? Do you have many books coming from France or Belgium? I don't know, but the books tend to look a little bit too much to each other.
Well, coming back to your cooperation with this young artist, I'm also noticed that you were working mostly with men, and now you started to work with women, which is also a different type of thinking on art, and also the other thing is that I wanted to ask: have you been to Belarus, or and you're not really eager to go and visit this artist?
For the moment, she lives in France, so we'll see. No, there are countries I really want to visit. I don't think Belarus is really one of them at this point, but I can imagine that if the series is successful, that there would be an edition publishing in Belarus. So why not?
Well, this is the other thing, because the artists you mentioned, they are one is from Morocco, the other one from Belarus. There is no actual comic market, neither in Belarus or Morocco. So I think what you are aiming for, the target is the Francophonian market, as you said. So probably there will be no national editions of these books in the countries where from the artists are.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I don't know about Belarus, but we had lots of discussion with people in Morocco. There is a delegation from the French-speaking community of Belgium in Morocco, and they really want to help them develop a market. So the first thing I asked, because they have publishers, there are papers, newspapers and all that, I asked, did you have a study of the markets? And they say, no, we don't have that. So I suggested that would be the first thing to do. You have publishers, you have people eventually buying books. How much? What would be the price acceptable for those people and all that? So I was surprised they didn't have a study of the market. But they were excited about the idea, and I'm supposed to go back to Morocco to work with those students at the Institut des Beaux-Arts, because we would make a book half financed by the Délégation de Wallonie-Bruxelles, so that they could show their work and go and see the publishers and the newspapers and all that. In Africa, there could be a market. The problem is the money. People don't have a lot of money, so are they going to spend, I don't know what is the price here, is it 40 zloty or for a book, or more than that?
More than that.
Yes, okay. So it's expensive, and that's a big problem. wanted to say something else. I don't know.
Arabic language versions or?
Yes. We have translations for some of my books. Of course, when the subjects are political, it's very difficult. So something like The Scorpion could be possible, although there are lots of religious themes in it, so we would have to see. But when it's, you know, about politics, about America, in the Arabic countries, you know, they are not so happy with the way the American politics are affecting them. So, and of course, you know, writing about Islam, I would say especially in France and Belgium, these days it's almost impossible. It's very, very dangerous. You've seen, but of course what I write is not comparable to Charlie Hebdo, but you know, there were many people killed just because they mocked Islam, so you really have to be careful about that.
What is also interesting for me is a certain level of escapism in these stories that you told me yesterday. The girl from Morocco didn't really want to draw anything about politics, or because of her country that she's living in. I guess also the girl from Belarus is prefers to draw cats than really make a statement about the politics in Belarus. So this is also the thing. So you do a kind of a research, and you talk with your artist before you start. What would they like to draw, and what about the story should be? So in other words, you do write the stories especially for them. They are dedicated to this specific artist.
Yes, more or less. The subject with the cats, I already had the story, and I was trying to find an artist who is very good with cats. But yes, it's, you know, I don't write novels, I write for comic books. So I'm not alone in this adventure. I'm going to write a story, and a guy is going to draw it for probably 1 or 2 years, but very often it's 20 years, like for IRS or Scorpion. How can I ask the artist to spend so much time on a subject he doesn't care about? So it's vital, I think, to have those discussions and to be sure that we want to go in the same direction. But it happens, you know, I can have an idea, I really want to write, and then after that I will try to find an artist who likes it and wants to spend time. The American artist I was talking about, Dan Penosian, I had already written 2 books before knowing who was going to write it. So it happens. But it was luck, because it was something that my publisher met in America, and he wrote the story. He said it's incredible because it's so much like my own experiences. So it was not written for him, but yeah, sometimes it fits. But yes, of course, I take a lot of attention to work really like a team with the artist. I find it's very important. All the scenarists I know don't work that way. There's someone, I think you know in Poland, it's Jean Van Damme, who worked with Rosinski. They were good friends, but they didn't talk a lot about what they were doing, about Toga. Van Damme would do his work, Rosinski would draw it, but they didn't talk a lot about the work especially.
There was no real bond between them over the character and the storyline. Well, let's get back to Scorpion, which is the most well-known title you're working on, and we have 11 issues in Poland published, and you are doing currently at 12 or 13? 13. So we hope we're gonna have them again in Egmont. Maybe they will decide to make it an integral edition because it is more popular for the Polish market. And so tell us a little what happened in this universe after the 11th tome. I'm not talking about the storyline itself, but I'm just asking about the general direction the story is going. Because you told me yesterday there will be some subjects in the story that are Polish related or even Krakow related. That is very, very interesting for everyone.
Yes, the Scorpion from the beginning, it's one long story with different chapters, and that story is going to end with book number 12. It should be out next year in French, and that really is going to be the conclusion of that long cycle. And Marini spent lots of years drawing that. He started a new series called the Aigle de Rome, Roman Eagles, probably existing in Polish. No?
Well, I'm not sure. Yes. Did we? Yes. The Eagles of Rome.
Okay, and he writes the story himself. So he discovered the pleasure to write, and at some point he said, you know, the Scorpion, it's almost 7 or 8 months a year, and I wanted to do the Aigle de Rome, but I also want to draw other things. He's doing a Batman story right now. So,
all by himself?
Yes, all by himself. So he loves the Scorpion, it's really part of him. In a way he would like to continue, in another way he wants time to touch other things. So we almost came to a divorce, and I would continue alone, and then we're good friends. So at some point we came back a little, and we, I think, found the good combination. He's going to do the storyboard, so he's not going to do the final drawings. He would imagine the story, and if you know what a storyboard is, it's faster than doing the final page. But we will have, you know, like the camera he uses. So we'll have the storytelling drawn by Marini, and then it will be picked up by someone else. We'll have to find an artist who can respect what Marini did, but also wants to do it, because you know, all the artists don't want to walk in the shoes of another one. So we're looking at that right now, but also coming at the end of that long cycle, I was able to use the characters to write another story. And I was really looking forward to do that. And I planned, the first scene in the book 13 is going to happen in Krakow. So it's the second half of the 18th century, and there will be a scene with, I'm not going to go into details, but it involves a character that I think that is well known, is Jacob Frank. And it was interesting because he was a Jew who converted to Catholicism for reasons that can be interpreted. So I won't go further than that, you'll have to read the book, but I'm taking lots of pictures in the historic district, yes, part, and I think we're going to go tomorrow for try to find books about all that architecture and all that I could use and give to the Marini and the artists afterward.
Well, the Jacob Frank history was recently exposed by Olga Tokarczuk in her book Księgi Jakubowe, which was quite an event, because there was a huge discussion raised around the book. So I think this particular character is going to be discussed even more when it appears on Scorpion. So we are very excited to see that, and you say that will be 2019 or 20?
I won't gamble on the dates, but yes, would 2020 at the latest, I would say. Yeah.
So what are the other projects apart of these? Because you are continuing IRS and Scorpion. Golden Dogs are closed. I mean, that's the
yes, that's
closed story. And these two projects with young artists, and are you thinking about a new series? I mean, like something longer with maybe younger artists or whatever, and if yes, what would that be? I mean, I'm asking about the setting mainly. Would that be again historical fiction or some political fiction like IRS, or maybe science fiction or whatever?
Trailers, I like to write trailers, but I wrote, I think, a little bit too many these last years, so IRS is going to stay the main project on that side. I have a new series that you probably can find on the internet called Jack Wolfgang. And what Jack Wolfgang, it's a thriller of a sort. He's an agent for the CIA, but he's a wolf. I imagined that starting in the Middle Ages, animals became more and more involved in the human society, and they live, you know, besides us. And he's an agent for CIA in a world where animals and humans are together. So it's a lot of fun.
It looks super cool, and can you tell us a few words about the artist? Because we don't know his name, I believe, in Poland. So,
well, I've been working with him for a long time. His name is Henri Reculé. He was born in Chile and came to live in Belgium, in Liège, which is another city in Belgium. And we did a few projects together. One was already with animals, was called the Last Jungle Book, and it was telling the story of what happened with Mowgli when he became an adult. Did he come back to the jungle at some point and met again with all the characters that are in the books of Kipling? And also we had another series called Cassio, which is a crime story, yes, set today, but about a murder that was committed during the Roman Empire. So that's Cassio. That's Cassio with 2 S. Yeah, there were 9 books, and hopefully it will be translated at some point.
So we are slowly approaching the end of the meeting. We have another 5 minutes, so if any one of you would like to ask a question, that will be a good moment, because then we have to finish. So, yes, there is a question. That's so nice.
Hi, welcome in Krakow. I would like to ask you, because you mentioned you've worked with some Vietnamese artists. What was the cooperation like? Did you went to Vietnam, or it was like the okay?
And the language barrier would be also interesting to know, because Asian people are not always operating English properly. So.
I was invited by the Délégation Wallonie-Bruxelles, so as you probably know, there are different communities in Belgium, one Flemish, one French, and also a small German community. And the Belgian community has offices in several countries. They have one in Poland, obviously, because I was invited by them to come here. But I had the chance to work with them in several countries. The first time was in Kinshasa, in Congo, Morocco, as I mentioned. And I was invited to go to Hanoi in Vietnam to work with, I think there were 40 artists over there. Some were, you know, just starting their careers. Really at the beginning, so some others were already working with Marvel or DC and were really professional. So it's, you know, was difficult to have people from so different levels. But I tried to make exercise with them, you know, to take a basic story and how to develop it into a comic books. And I found that it was impossible for them to talk in front of the others. They were so shy, you know, they had many things to say, but impossible to communicate with the others. So I started to take one after the other and spend 10 minutes with each of them, with a translator, because most of them didn't speak English or French. And it became impossible because they were so happy to be able to discuss with me and tell their stories. 10 minutes was never enough. It was just the beginning of the conversation. So it was frustrating and at the same time very interesting to see that, you know, it's still communist there in a way, and they want to talk, but it's still very difficult for them. Also, I had an experience there. I went to the university to discuss with students, and at the end, like we just did, the professor asked, do you have questions? It would be complete silence. And then they explained afterwards that it would be disrespectful for the students to ask questions because it meant that I didn't speak clearly, you see? So again, it's cultural, it's very interesting. But that was the idea of the trip there. I spent 10 days in Hanoi, and really very interesting. But they can't really speak their minds completely now. So I think there was one bookstore in all Hanoi who had books published in America, in Europe. And I think sometimes they have problems. So interesting, but you know, at the same time frustrating.
And the market is not overlapping. The last question then, and from Tomasz, and then we will move on.
So there are completely different stories, like Scorpio, like Golden Dogs and IRS, and Jack Wolfgang. And my question is, which type of story is, or the time period is your preferable? Like in the future, if you would like to write your dream story to be illustrated by the artist, it would be historical or science fiction or post-apocalyptic or any other. So that's, and the second part of the question is about your inspirations. What are your current inspirations in writing?
I have a project. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, because we've been discussing for this for about, I think, more than 2 years now. There's a great artist in France who's called Mathieu Laufray. I don't know if you've heard about him. He used to draw a series called Long John Silver.
Of course.
Yeah, he's. I have a great relationship with him, and I wrote a story for him that is set in the future. And yes, it's sort of apocalyptic. The idea is about archaeology in the future. That the people, when, you know, the only place where you can still live is in Africa, and still there are some people who are going to leave Africa to have exploration with archaeology in the ruins of our world in Europe. And they will try to find the treasures of Tutankhamun that have disappeared, have probably been destroyed, and they will try to find that again. And really the theme is what is going to be left of our culture. When you see in, I think it was in Afghanistan or Pakistan, that they destroyed, you know, those Buddhic statues and all that, is it so important for us to keep track of the past? Obviously it is, but you know the meaning of that. It's really us, in fact, all those ruins of the past, and is it going to disappear or not? What's the importance that we give to that? So that's the subject. I would say it's set in the future for all, you know the settings. I know that he's a great illustrator, so it has lots of possibilities for him. But really, he could be said today, because I think we really have that on our mind now. What are we going to preserve of our civilization, our memories? And the other part of your question?
Inspiration,
yes. I think probably one of the first inspiration is travels. I discovered traveling when I was around my 30s, and it's very important for me to discover other cultures. I met my wife in Congo, and she came to live in Europe, and together we discovered other continents. We went to Mexico many times, America of course, but also Asia. We went to India together with our children, Thailand, and it's always a discovery. India was absolutely incredible for me. You really ask lots of questions about yourself when you see how other people live. And that was, I think, the main reason I came here in Poland. Even though it's closer to Belgium, but still I think you, politically and geographically, it's so different. You know, I don't have to tell you your history, but being between Russia and Germany, I think affects your way of thinking, of seeing the world, and I'm really very much interested in that. So that's a big inspiration for me. Also, religion and racism are big inspiration for me. I grew up, my mother was Catholic, my father was Jewish, but I was really raised as a Catholic, always knowing that it was possible to choose another way, because my father was thinking differently. So I really started to read a lot about religion, so the history critics, you know, how we try to interpret what really happened at the time. I'm very interested in that. There's some of that in the Scorpion, but I will write again on the subject, certainly. And racism, of course, is very important for me. My wife is black, our children are half. And when you see what happens in America now with Donald Trump, it remains, I'm afraid, a very big subject for the years to come.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you all to come, and now we will move on to the booth of Kultura Gniewu. To our association booth, and that is where Stephen is going to sign his books for you. So each one of you that wants to have an autograph, please follow us to the booth number D78, the Comic Book Association. And there's another meeting going to start now, so thanks a lot again.